Yes, sir.
I don't do the most, but I do a lot. I'ma make a toast, cause we still alive. No big, I feel like Pac. I shoot a shot. I'm coming in hot. Coming in hot. Shoot that. Hey, why not? Yeah, coming in hot. Just like the fajita. I write what I live. My life in the speaker. I'm nice with the flow. Just like the demeanor. I'm feeding my fam. I'm feeding the meter.
What's going on, everybody? This is Elam B. King coming at you this afternoon. Is it afternoon? Yeah, I guess it is afternoon. And I want to welcome you to the Understanding a Man podcast. We're going to start off calling it that right now. It might end up being something else later on. But we definitely have a couple of topics that we're going to discuss with you today. And I'm going to introduce my amazing co-host in just one second. But I want to thank you guys just for listening in. I want to ask you just to take a moment and, kind of tear down some of those some of the extra thoughts that you might have as we going to dive into just a couple of topics today. This is pretty much our pilot podcast, so we're going to talk about a couple of things and kind of go from there. But before I do that, I want to bring in an amazing individual that I'll be working with here, and then we just I don't know, man. They might not be ready for you, sir.
Yeah, man. Go back.
That is the voice of Mr. Charles James. And you will definitely get to know his thought process and things of that nature in just a moment. Charles, what's going on today, man?
Man, I'm having a good day, man. I'm glad to be in here with my brother.
Yeah,
man.
dude, man,
My brother.
You running. You was running from one side of Atlanta to the other.
Yeah, but we gotta get it, man.
Yes, sir.
Gotta get it.
Yes, sir. And you know what? Let's kind of give a little background and just so you guys know, Understanding a Man, Empowering Women with Tools for Lasting Relationships. It was released about 2 years ago, Black Friday, right? Mm-hmm. And Charles James had a chance to actually be, when the concept actually came down a couple years ago, we were at a woman's retreat.
Yep.
With Adrienne E. Bell, right?
Yep.
And so we were
Shouts
just about
out to AV.
what?
Girl,
so we was the GOAT for real, right? So she had a segment and it was called Understanding the Mind of a Man. And it was like 100 women that were in there, right? And at the end of that hour, the question, they were just asking us questions, and they were like basic questions. And the mean age in the room was like at least 45.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And at the end of that hour, just they were like on the edge of their seats.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I looked around the room and I was like, yo, like there's just a lack of understanding that's not only within our community, but just period between men and women.
Yeah.
And so the goal here is not to be misogynistic. The goal is not to, just pick on any particular gender, but just more to provide an understanding.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And so what I did was interview 24 men about various topics of the heart and then wrote about it, right? And Charles James dropped some serious bombs in there.
Man, it was an honor to be a part of it, bro. It's dope.
And so after that, just so many things just expanded. And so that's why we are here today. And so, we just want to jump into a couple of times. Hey, listen, let me tell y'all something. If y'all don't follow this man, Charles James, on Facebook, goodness great. Dude, every day you lighten them up with another topic.
Man, got to, bro. Got to.
And we're gonna talk about a couple of them in a second. I want to jump right in because obviously, so myself currently married, and then of course Charles James, he is we'll say unmarried, right? We don't like to say single, just unmarried, right?
Yes, sir.
It could be all the above, though, right?
Yeah.
And so you'll definitely have an opportunity of getting different perspectives, but I want to jump in because there were a couple of topics that we did talk about in Understanding a Man, and particularly in this particular chapter 14, what to do while you wait, right? Yeah. And so we have so many people that are just jumping forward into just, they're more focused on just the relationship and not to really kind of get themselves together. And I put a post up yesterday, and I want you to help me with this one, just what your thoughts are. It said, catch you before you catch me.
That's good.
So when you hear that, you know what I'm saying, and you're thinking about the unmarried folks, what are your thoughts about that?
I think for me, and it's interesting because, I think a lot of what you do in your service in intergender kind of dynamics is to really kind of put women on game,
Right.
and to help women.
Yes.
And it's so interesting because we have the same goal,
Right.
but work on the opposite end.
Right.
You know, my drive is always to put guys on.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I feel like when you align guys and get guys together,
Right.
you know, it helps everything come together because we're the leaders, right?
Right.
You know, but for me, when I think about that, I'm thinking like, yo, man, you need to figure out your life.
What? Come on.
Like,
And
figure out your life
First.
Like before you involve anybody into anything.
That's real.
Figure out your life.
That's real.
Figure out where you're going, what
Right.
you want to do, like what your dislikes are, what your likes are, what your needs are.
Right.
And I honestly think that takes years.
Yeah, come on, man. And I think and that's a good point. And it's really when we look at purpose, when we look at, you know, just people want to jump out here and how are you going to teach somebody else how to love you if you haven't learned how to maximize loving yourself? And I don't think that there's anything wrong. I always try to tell the unmarried folks, like, y'all in a good position. Don't let the married people get on my nerves.
Yeah.
Because they think that they know everything. Like, oh, like we're married and you're not. Nah, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's that divorce rate's at 50%. Stop bragging because you got a 50% chance of not making it, and
Exactly.
what in the minority community it's up to 70%.
Yep.
So you got a 70%. So chill out.
Yeah.
And the unmarried folks have a chance of just figuring out themselves and just some of the basics,
Yeah, man.
and just walking in your purpose. Something as simple as like what direction that you really want to go in life.
Absolutely. And I mean, they got hot with me on social media
Uh-oh.
because
Uh-oh.
I posted, I said the level of importance in a relationship that's a dating relationship is this:
Right.
God,
Okay.
you,
Mm-hmm.
your passion and dreams,
Mm-hmm.
your family, your friends,
Right.
your girl.
Ooh. So why they get mad at that? I don't understand.
Here's the thing, but then I kicked it up a whole step notch.
Okay.
This is what really made them mad. I said, when you're married,
Uh-huh.
it's God,
Uh-huh.
you,
Okay.
your wife.
Right. That's word.
And
That's real.
the evangelical community, because
Yes.
that's the community that I'm most associated
Right.
with.
Right.
They were just like, no, you can't do that because you're supposed to put her, before yourself, and it's about.
And I was
what I was trying to get them to understand is that Jesus said,
Mhm.
love your neighbor as
Love
yourself.
Yes.
So if because he talked about with the dynamic in Ephesians 5 about loving your wife.
Right.
He said nobody hates his own flesh,
Right.
but he nourishes it. He takes care of it, right?
Right.
So I'm going to love her
Right.
at the level that I really love and know myself.
Exactly.
So if I don't put me first,
Right.
then our relationship can't survive.
And that's why in the unmarried space, people should be maximizing love. Like, be alone.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? For a
Yes.
second. Figure out your love. You got the love language. Let's get that down
goodness.
for the
Yeah.
basic, right?
That's
And then you have, your purpose and what direction you want to go to, and you mess around and start dating somebody, or you marry somebody, and a lot of times they think that you're going to make certain changes and shifts. When you let them know what those non-negotiables are, because you figured that out within yourself, then the other person knows whether they need to sign up for the team or not.
Yep.
Because that's really what it is. You signing up for the team. And if you don't know what type of team that you about to play with, like,
Exactly.
you don't even need to be with that person. I think it's rude.
Yeah.
How you going to go and try to get a whole nother brain and another body to be with you? You don't even know yourself.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I don't understand that. And so, and it's holiday time, right? So what are people going to, get and what also is winter months, right? So this is cuffing season.
Oh, yeah.
People just want to find somebody just to get them a gift. You got
yeah.
Christmas, then Valentine's Day. People trying to,
Yeah.
trying to lock
No,
that
really.
down. That's what they're more
That's
focused on. And then they just looking at teeth and whether the sex is good or not, or whether they got the person got a nice job. Oh, okay, cool. Let's go link up.
It don't work like that.
It doesn't.
It doesn't work.
Now, if you're just dating and having fun and entertainment, that's fine. But if you're dating with intention,
Yeah.
then you know how to cut this thing off and move on to something else.
Absolutely.
And I always like to say to ladies that normally within the first month, in my opinion. They got this thing called discernment.
Yeah.
Right. And so the spider sense starts tingling and it lets them know something's not right with this person. But they keep on going, and God forbid you start having sex. Okay, now your hormones and the oxytocin and dopamine got you all messed up.
Your fault.
You know what I'm saying? We'll talk about orgasms at another time. They don't understand them orgasms will mess them.
Jack you up. It'll jack you up, bro.
Give them a 5-second version. Why would that mess them up?
I mean, when you get dickmatized,
come on.
Totally, it's one thing is if you attracted somebody, right? The other thing is if you have a certain type of emotional connection with somebody,
right?
And then on top of that,
right,
they are a tomcat in the sack.
Right.
Like it's really, for somebody,
tomcat in the sack.
For a woman, I could see how that could be a real struggle,
right?
Because now it's just like the dynamic between men and women is that when a man gets with a woman, he gets with her and hopes she doesn't change. Right. When a woman gets with a man, she's looking forward to adjusting him.
Is that right?
Right. So she'll stick around.
Okay.
Because she believes that what I have is powerful enough.
And when you say what you have, because y'all might not be able to see the hands, what you mean by what you have?
The box is gonna change.
Okay. All right.
The box meet, and it's not just sex. It's not sex only.
Right.
It's sex. It's her nurturing ability.
Right.
It's the fact that she feels like she can be persuasive.
Right.
And she can help him along to become more and more of the man that she wants him to be without understanding. And this is what happens.
Okay.
Men get into relationships not realizing that she's going to change.
Okay.
The sex is going to change.
Yes, sir.
When the dynamics come in of children, that's going to change.
Right.
If money changes, things are going to change.
Right.
If when seasons are always going to be in relationships.
Right.
And everything is not going to be the same. Now that's where the work comes in,
right.
because if you want your sex life to be consistent,
okay,
then you prioritize it, right?
Right.
But you don't expect her to be the hump queen that she was when you met her when she was 24.
And you know what? I actually want to throw a little rescue in for that. There's a book that I actually read by Dr. Luann Brizendine, and she wrote 2 books, The Male Brain and The Female Brain, right? And so I want to give a little rescue to some people and my unmarried folks. I want you to pay attention to this for a second, because part of this is hormonal, right? Because when people are dating, those butterflies in their stomachs, that's actually a hormone, that you feel and that's Mother Nature's way of actually getting you guys to get together. Because remember, the reason why for sex is to procreate, to keep the generations going, right? And so it's trying to, you literally have hormones trying to pull you together, those pheromones trying to pull you together. And then what happens after folks get married, also Mother Nature built in there too. What happens is that, okay, now that you're together, right? Okay, now you're supposed to have children next, right? So you begin to shift and focus on the children, right? So there's actually a hormonal shift that happens, which is the reason why that my married folks, don't want to get too much into the married folks yet, because I want to kind of help out the unmarried right now. But just know that what's forthcoming is that you immediately begin to focus on the children, and you're not focusing on each other. Yep. And so that's why you have to become an intentional wife and an intentional husband. And if you don't do that, that's how people look up, right? And 10, 15 years from now, they're like,
I don't know you.
There you go. Yep. Right. And so my pastor actually said this to me. My bishop said this to me a couple of weeks ago. He said one of the things that his daughter, my second cousin, shout out to Shay, right? Shay King, shout out. She was telling him that she's noticing she's in her junior year, right? And a lot of her friends' parents are getting divorced. Why is that? Because now the obligation or the responsibility is gone out the door. And now you got 2 people who forgot or never realized or didn't stay in tune with how to marry, how to stay married.
Because they don't, in those seasons, you have to keep at the forefront of your relationship that I don't have a covenant with children. You have to understand that you don't have a covenant with children. When I stood at the altar, I stood at the altar and said, it's going to be me and you to the end. Right. And so when children come into the equation, you have to put things in there. You have to define things in a relationship. And I think that's communication is important with saying,
being intentional.
When kids come into the relationship, they don't run this relationship.
Right. Come on. Come on.
We're prioritizing our dates. We're prioritizing our sexual encounters. We're prioritizing intimacy. We're prioritizing that we're going to raise them together like this. Kids do not run the relationship.
And I need my mamas out there to feel comfortable with that in that moment, because a lot of things that society has pushed onto them, I mean, they got to be a good mom. You got to be there for little Johnny, right? So if you looking at your husband or little Johnny, inside of your mind, you're like, well, it's all about little Johnny.
Yeah.
And big Johnny over there like, yo, if I'm not taken care of, you know, I loved little Johnny, but hold on. Let me get this 5 minutes real quick.
Yes.
5 to 7 minutes.
That's something that I've seen consistently with friends of mine who are married and have children.
Right.
There's this there's this cloud of the kids are more important than you.
Right.
And it almost gives off the energy that I got you to get these kids. And so relationships are struggling because it has not been defined that I have children by stewardship. My responsibility is to have the children and to raise them to be intelligent, articulate, wonderful, good members of society. Right. And my relationship with my spouse is forever until death do us part.
Come on, forever.
So when you have that idea and when you have the proper definition of the relationship, then things will fall into place a little different. Not saying it's going to be easy.
Right. Like, of course, no. Life is going to happen.
Life is going to kick
Little
you
Johnny
in the face.
going to skin his knee, break his leg and all that. We get the prioritization,
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, if you're not being an intentional wife, if you're not being an intentional husband, you will accidentally fall into, and there's got to be some validity to it, because you're talking about an entity that 50% of the time doesn't make it.
Yeah.
So we've got to learn to do this thing differently. And we're not like our grandparents. And somebody said this to me a couple of weeks ago. They were just like, well, how come grandma and grandpa didn't have to know about all that stuff? Yo, stuff is different, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't stop comparing yourself.
You know what? It's the society. Like, you have to understand, in our culture, we don't have. Listen, life during that time was hard. Right. So with our grandparents and their parents and the parents before them and them before them, there were so many outside factors that made life suck.
Right.
That you had to clearly define roles in the relationship.
Yeah, that's real.
Look, it's hard out here.
We got to bond. Yes. We got to do this right, because there's enough going on outside that door. That's you know, that makes a lot of sense.
I'm gonna work. Okay, cool. You're gonna work. I'm gonna make sure this house is held down. Right. And that's how and so she respected him because he took care of her. He respected her because she did the things that he couldn't do. Right. He respected the fact that she nurtured the kids, took care of the house, and cooked the food. She respected him because he made the money that made it available for her to be able to take care of the house and cook the food.
And let's help them out real quick, because they'll be real quick to say, oh, so what are we supposed to go back to those days?
No.
Okay.
What we need to go back to is being able to define what you want.
Let's make relationships great again.
Yeah.
How about that? Let's make them great. I don't know whether we should insert it, but that's real though, because we're not making them great. Like, it's not cool to be married almost right now.
And so it's
not. I have a lot of single people that are saying, I don't know whether I want to do this or not. Because there's no definition behind it.
It's a raw deal for men.
And a confused mind does nothing. And men get confused real fast. And I had somebody say that it's a raw deal for men right now. It's just kind of like, why should I even put myself in a situation where half is going to get taken?
Brother.
Why should I do that?
Men lie, women lie. But numbers do not
That's
lie.
real.
Bro, if I told you that we're going to jump out of this plane and there's a 50% chance that your parachute won't open, you're not jumping out of the plane.
That's a great example.
Right? So here's the thing. So
what about 70%?
That's even worse. I'm not even going to the place.
I'm not even going to fill out the waiver form.
I'm not even going to fill out the waiver, right? So if we leave that as the example, right?
Right.
And then look at the numbers of over 60% of women file for divorce. So 60% of women file for divorce.
Right.
50% of the marriages don't end in divorce.
Right.
The number is even higher for those who are under 45.
Ooh.
Right. And now look at this. Now, when you get to the court system, 90% of the time women are given alimony, depending on the state that you live in. 80% of the time, the children are going to go to the woman, and you're going to have to pay child support.
Right.
So so when it comes down to it,
which is garbage,
there is no, and this is a hard thing to say,
right?
But there isn't any security in marriage for men.
Right. That's real.
In this culture.
That needs to be said, because that's the tough topic that people need to understand.
And the reason why they could get married, our grandparents could get married as soon as they graduated high school.
Right. Or even before.
Because they knew that's your part and this is my part. I honestly think.
And they went 50, 60 years together.
And they went 50, 60 years together because she knew that's my part. And that's the part of the team.
Right.
Right. The reason why the Lakers run together so well is because they know LeBron is the guy.
You know what? We're gonna come back to that portion in a minute. I want to kind of jump over to even for my unmarried folks with regard to these standards that exist out here. You know, the bucket, the list, right? And how this list will get folks in trouble, right? And I'm just gonna start off by saying, a lot of times I don't have too many male friends that got a list. They just like, yo, don't get on my nerves. You know what I'm saying? And let the sex be good or whatever, be cute. They don't even have to cook no more. We kind of eliminated that one.
Dave Chappelle said, "Suck his dick, play with his balls, make him a sandwich, and don't talk so much."
I'm trying to tell you. And we kind of talk about that in understanding a man of relationship maintenance or whatever, because Chris Rock said it even better. He was like, feed me and F me and shut the F up. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so we transitioned that. I was just like, feed me, cheer me on, sex me, and leave me alone. You know what I'm saying? And Trey Barnett actually said this. He was just like, the leave me alone has more transition into be my business partner or work alongside me, because you have a lot more entrepreneurials versus people trying to go out there and do corporate America or whatever. But anyway, with regard to the standards, this list that, whether he's 6 feet tall, whether his dick got to be bigger than 8 inches, you know what I'm saying? Whether he, I hear dinner fork. Okay. And let me just give you some stats really quickly on that, ladies. You know what I'm saying? Particularly like the 6 foot one, right? Okay. So 83% of the people on this planet are not 6 feet tall. So that I'm just like, ladies, you just took your bucket down to only 17% of the men. And we didn't even say whether he's black or white, or whether he got some sense or not, or whether he's been to jail or not, whether he got a job or not, whether he a mama's boy or not. That means you starting at 17. And you coming down from 17% to 16 to 15 to 14. And so, and even when it comes to, even from a sexual perspective, right? Okay, so 91% of men have a 6-inch penis or less. Hard. So now let's go to that. So he got to be, if he got to be King Dingaling, you starting off with only 10% off of it. Google it. Please do. Please Google that, ladies. If he's got to make $100,000 or more, 91% of the men in the U.S. do not make 6 figures. So you're starting at 9%. You know what I'm saying? Of the 350-something million, only 9 million men make, daggone it, 6 figures. So come on. Yeah. We didn't even add in the other stuff. So if you want a 6 foot, 6 figure that, packing, you starting at a very small pool. So what do you think about some of these?
Then
we didn't even put Christian. Or godly, or what's spiritual. We didn't even put spirituality in there yet. What are your thoughts about that, man?
We have to
when he started talking, well, you know what Rasan Austin said? He said, look at the 80-20 rule with that, right? Yeah. You take your top 80% that's just like the most important. Yeah. There's 20% you got to let go. You know what I'm saying? Like, I leave my shoes by the door. My wife can't stand it, right? My shoes are going to stay by the door. I don't feel like taking them upstairs to the closet. Like, I don't. Yeah. Now, but I've had people that will almost get a divorce because the guy would, take he took a bath, and after he took his bath, his towel, he threw it on the bed. And the wife was like, yo, it used to drive me bananas. And she was like, I was about to divorce him over that. So my point is that this bucket list that people have to hit, you just have to be careful, because there's nothing wrong with having standards, right? So we're not asking anybody to reduce your standards, but just know that it's almost like having knowledge of self. There's a consequence that comes with that. And it might be some extra years before that person comes along. I mean, what?
Listen, man, there are standards and then there are preferences.
Okay. All right.
And a lot of people who have they have more aggressive preferences than they do standards.
Okay.
And so if me saying he needs to be 6'5",
okay,
is a preference.
Okay, right.
You saying, now I can understand a girl who when she puts on heels, she's 6'2".
Yeah.
I get it.
I get that.
No, I get that, and you're like, man, I want to feel like,
dude is still standing over me.
Still standing. So I get that. I'm not talking about, but it's girls who are 5'2" who just like,